Welcome to Ladders, where we break down the guys rising up your fantasy ranks. The playoffs are coming soon. We're going to change things up a little bit, but importantly, we're going to talk about the guys we like and the guys that can take you all the way to your fantasy playoffs, including Bryce Young, maybe a little bit of Byshul Tootin, maybe some A.D. Mitchell. We got range today. I am FTW's Christian DeAndre. He is a Rhode Island scumbag, Mike Yaj, Boyajian Yaj. How you feeling in advance of this Monday night Patriots showdown?
Cautiously optimistic. You can't discount anybody in a primetime game. So the Giants could come out absolutely on fire tonight. You don't know. They got Jackson Dart back, so this could turn into a game where we just see fireworks for 4 straight quarters. Hopefully, the Patriots come out on top. I sure hope they do. And also just excited for a fun night of Monday Night Football where we're finally back in the graces of America and finally the featured game again, which has been a long time since we've seen the Patriots in primetime football.
Been a minute. I'm always worried to see the Giants out there. You know, your New England grandpa's team, the Giants, versus your New England dad's team, the Patriots. And Drake May going to be maybe without 60% of his offensive line, the entire left side out, but he does well under pressure. I'm not too worried about it. You can learn something from my guy, Diego, roasting the University of Tennessee. But I digress. Let's talk fantasy. And let's start with a guy who was a Heisman winner in his own right. Yes, Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers. Fits and stretches. This is a man who can occasionally get things going, but occasionally backslides. We saw him finish last season strong. This year, big game against the Falcons, backslid in week 12, and then puts the Rams on blast in week 13. 3 passing touchdowns, an upset win. Jalen Coker's in the lineup, looking good. He has his full complement of weapons. So let's talk about the guys on his level that you might pick up or the guys you might drop to bring Bryce Young into the lineup when your playoff push begins, starting with about 7% owned right now, probably going to go up a little bit. Tyler Shuck, New Orleans Saints. Yaj, if you are fishing for quarterback help, do you want Tyler Shuck in your lineup or do you want Bryce Young?
I guess I'll take Bryce Young when put with Tyler Shuck. Shuck simply he kind of has a long road ahead. Just kind of figuring out just the offense itself. He really doesn't have the quality weapons that Bryce Young has. And one thing we do have to note is that offensive line for Bryce Young played unbelievable yesterday. And I just don't think the Saints are there yet. So just combine between situations. They're both going to be up and down, but I'll take Bryce Young here. He's more established and he's done it before. So I'll take him if I have to pick one of these two.
I will say Tyler Shuck's ability to process and improve as the game goes on is promising. I just don't think we're ever going to know what he is in 2025 because look at the guys around him, guys.
Yeah.
His top wideout right now behind Chris Olave is Devon Villay.
Right.
His running back is Devin Neal. I mean, who's he throwing to? He's got very little support out there. So, Shuck can go out there and give you 20-plus points. He's done it in half of his starts so far. I don't think he's a terrible pickup, but I think for a guy like Bryce Young, when you have Ted McMillan, when you have Jalen Coker, when you have a Tommy Tremble out there, you're going to want that supporting cast a little bit more. Next man up, 39% owned, some big games, missed some time due to injury, a little low key, but in a winning effort in week 13, Houston Texans quarterback CJ Stroud. Yash, who you got?
I know this is going to actually be pretty closer than it should be, but I'll take CJ Stroud in this one.
Okay.
I think we're seeing, if you watched the game yesterday, that looked a lot more like 2023 CJ Stroud that we thought was going to be the quarterback of the future for the Texans. Now, he has been derailed by concussions and poor line play this year, but I truly think we're going to see the best of CJ Stroud moving forward. So they both have really good weapons. So you can't really say one versus the other in terms of their receivers because both receiver rooms are pretty damn good. So in that case, I'm just going to go with CJ Stroud because he was a great down the stretch in 2023, and right now Texas is still within striking distance of the playoffs. So they need some things to fall right, but it could happen. So I'm going to roll with Stroud here.
I do think the Texans win the AFC South. I appreciate what the Jaguars are doing. We're going to get to Trevor Lawrence in just a second here, but Stroud, no touchdowns last week. That's what kind of killed him from a fantasy standpoint. And he does have those kind of quiet days where he'll throw one touchdown, he'll throw two, but he's been quietly very, very efficient. He is, like you said, getting back to that 2023 form, average more than 12.5 yards per catch in week 13 against a pretty good Colts defense, granted one without Sauce Gardner. It is sustainable. The defense is going to face down the line, tough but not devastating.
Right.
The one downside is that, well, the Texans have that defense. They might be playing with a lead, might not be throwing it a ton. Right. But you look at that run game, Woody Marks, Nick Chubb, do you trust them to grind out clock that much, or are you going to throw the ball a little bit more often, get some high percentage passes? I think that's going to be the case. So I agree with you on that one. Mm-hmm. I want CJ Stroud. Next man up, we said we're going to talk about him. Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence, 7 touchdown passes in his last 4 games. He had 9 touchdown passes in his first 8. What's the difference? Well, Jacoby Myers is in teal and gold. So, Yaj, who do you want on your fantasy roster between those 90s expansion teams? Do you want the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, or do you want the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence?
I might be taking crazy pills here, but give me Trevor Lawrence. I know. He really looked okay yesterday. And I think the point that you made that Jacoby Myers is now in town, that's the reason why. The offense just looks like it's just kind of, it's got more of a flow to it now.
It's so much easier.
Yeah, Brian Thomas was back, but it was clearly Jacoby Myers who was kind of leading the way yesterday. You also have Brenton Strange is back. That's huge for Lawrence as well in terms of a security blanket. Bashal Tutin and Travis Etienne look great out of the backfield. So I'm, not thrilled with it, but I would definitely take Lawrence when putting these two head to head.
It's a real toss up for me just because Young does have some efficiency on his side and Lawrence can really disappear at times. But what we've really seen lately is that Trevor Lawrence is being tasked to use his legs a lot more, especially with Myers in the lineup. He's going to give you about 25 rushing yards per game on a few design carries, but also on the scrambles. That's valuable. There's a lot of value to that. And then you're not really getting that from Bryce Young as much. Plus, I mean, like you said, they have an adult in the room now. They know where Jacoby Myers is going to be on the field because he's on time. He's crisp with his routes. Trevor Lawrence doesn't need to double pump with the ball because Brian Thomas Jr. is not where he's supposed to be downfield. It's keeping the offense on schedule a lot better, making everything look better for our fellow Rhode Island scumbag Liam Cohen. It's a coin flip for me, but I think I want Trevor Lawrence in there.
Nice.
Let's see if I have the wherewithal. Yay. There we go. We're going to be talking about the guys out there on the waiver wire who could be your deliverance into the playoffs and into a long and healthy, fruitful playoff run. Yes, we're talking about the wide receivers, less than 20% owned out there, but who can absolutely show up. These guys have all had 10-plus point performances in the last 2 weeks. So, Yaj, I'm going to give you 9 names.
Okay.
I want you to pick 2 guys to set aside on their own tier, and I want you to pick 1 guy to carry you in week 14 among these wideouts.
Okay.
Devon Villay, New Orleans Saints.
Yep.
Adonai Mitchell, New York Jets. Dontavian Wicks, Green Bay Packers. Jalen Coker of the Carolina Panthers. Isaac Tesla, the Detroit Lions. Marquise Hollywood Brown of the Kansas City Chiefs. Luther Burden, Chicago Bears. Andre Yoshibas of the Cincinnati Bengals. And Chimere Dike, Tennessee Titans. All pretty much available across most Yahoo leagues. All capable of big, dizzying performances and absolute nothings. So, Yaj, pick 2 guys to place on their own tier from that group.
Okay. This one should come to no shock for anybody. The tens of listeners that we have who've been watching the last couple weeks. I am obviously taking A.D. Mitchell here as your waiver wire pickup to carry throughout the playoffs. We got to see who we hope he is yesterday. And I mean, is there going to be a dud game thrown in there? Probably, but I don't think anybody on this list is capable of 7 to 8 targets a game moving forward. And so he will be my choice for the playoff run. Now, when it comes to a guy that I would put on his tier, if it's 1 week only, I'm going with Isaac Tesla for the Detroit Lions because Sun God's going to be out for, it looks like 1, maybe 2 weeks. We don't know. I mean, for all we know, he could play next week.
He's going to try and play through. You know that.
You know him. He's an absolute beast. So
we've seen his dad. This is not a man who suffers injuries and lets them linger. This is a man that plays through pain.
His dad doesn't believe in water. You drink spit when you work out. Like this guy. I mean, it's just that stuck with me on that document. It was awesome that he said that. I thought that was so funny. But again, 1 week, I'm going to roll with Tesla. He's going to have the opportunity. And whenever he's on the field and a pass comes his way, it's usually in the end zone. So if you're week 14, backs against the wall, you need a guy for 1 week, roll with Tesla. But for these tiers, I'd rather go Luther Burden. I know that's kind of like an out there one, but he's over the last 4 weeks, he's quietly averaging about 5 targets a game, which is right around par with Colston Loveland. He's not obviously the lead. That's still DJ Moore and or Roma Dunze, depending on the week. But he's just so explosive with the ball. It's like he's the type of guy. He's kind of like a Christian Watson, where he might only get 5 targets, but he could turn it into 4 for 85 and a touchdown. So that's why I'd rather stash him than like a Tesla who might only get a run. So to kind of bring this full circle, my number 1 is going to be A.D. Mitchell, and my number 2 is Luther Burden.
So I'm going to break this down between the guy I love, Jalen Coker, who's not going to make the cut for me just because his target share isn't quite there yet. You know, he's run a few routes, but he's very clearly number 2 on the pecking order behind Tetero McMillan. He's only getting the target on about 70% of his routes, whereas a guy like Adonai Mitchell is getting the ball about 1 in every 3 routes right now. Obviously, the Jets want to make him a thing. So, yes, he is in not quite the circle of trust, but he is a valuable play right now. You can't trust a man with hands like his, but not an easy catch to make in the end zone on that deep ball from Tyrod Taylor. He hauled it in, something to build up from there. So, yes, Adonai Mitchell is on that top tier. The guy that joins him for me, pure volume play, Devon Villay, a guy who's run about 30 routes per week over the last 4 weeks, and that number is increasing. Tyler Shuck clearly trusts him because of course he does. Who else is he going to throw to in that lineup? Mason Tipton, some more gadget plays for Taysom Hill. No, you want someone who is quasi-reliable. Villay, been around a while. The Saints traded away 2 draft picks to get him. They're going to feature him a lot in that offense. So for me, Villay and Mitchell are the 2 long-term picks. If there's one guy I want in week 14, I do like the boom bust potential of a Tesla, but I think Dontavian Wicks is going to have the highest single game upside of any guy out there that's not Adonai Mitchell or Devon Villay.
Okay.
Because it's rough out there for running back help. Not in the NFL itself. There are a bunch of guys out there, but if you're looking for a guy to save your team, it is, man, you are pulling through the chaff right now. Very little wheat among the backup running backs lingering on your waiver wire. But we pulled a bunch of guys who are probably available in Yahoo, and we're going to try and find one who can save your fantasy season. Yash, I pulled 9 guys who can be potential fantasy difference makers. I want you to go ahead and pull out 2 of them. 2 of them to pull on their own tier, and 1 of them to guide you to the playoffs.
Okay.
Let's start with number 1, Blake Corum of the Los Angeles Rams. Number 2, Ray Davis of the Buffalo Bills. Number 3, Baishul Tootin, Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 4, Nick Chubb, Houston Texans. Number 5, Tyjae Spears, Tennessee Titans. Number 6, Michael Carter, the Arizona Cardinals. Number 7, Tyler Algier of the Atlanta Falcons. Number 8, Dylan Sampson of the Cleveland Browns. Number 9, Brian Robinson Jr. of the San Francisco 49ers. All majority available in Yahoo leagues, all very clear backup running backs who could have a big day. So, Yash, if you had to roll with 1 for week 14, who's it going to be? And B, you got to stash 1 to carry you through the playoffs, who would it be?
Okay. All right. If I'm rolling with 1, For week 14, I'll take Blake Corum.
Okay.
He looked good yesterday once again. And it does look like that split is more around like a 55-45 than it is a 60-40. I could be wrong there. But just based on, just the eye test watching the game yesterday, it seemed like Corum was getting his opportunities and making the best of them. And we don't know, LA does ride Williams a lot of times, and, running backs break down when you ride them. It's a little bit too hard. So Corum's probably going to be my favorite. Outside of Bay, Sheltouton.
Your guy.
He's my guy for the stash for the rest of the year. I unfortunately dropped him in Scumbag to make room for Luther Burden. I panicked. I had to make a move, had to grab a second tight end. Ty Warren was out, and it was one or the other. And, I aired on receiver over running back, unfortunately, and someone swooped in and grabbed him. So
every time,
to my dismay, he will most likely be wasting away on someone's non-playoff roster for the rest of the year because I beat that person this week and they're not qualifying for the playoffs. But Tootin has been getting a lot of run out of the bye, especially. I want to say week 11 was the split week where he and Travis Etienne basically had like almost the exact same stat line. I think it was 75 rushing yards. The only difference was one had 2 touchdowns, one had 1 touchdown. Then we see Etienne completely take over week 12. And then on Sunday, we see another role reversal again, where it's back to Tootin. So I think Jacksonville just really wants to get Tootin going. They have the end of the year coming up, last final stretch. Let's see what they got before, entering the AFC South playoff fray. Tootin for the long haul, and Corum if I have to go for a week.
I would agree with that. Jacksonville running with a hot hand quite often, and you got, like you mentioned, off screen LaQuint Allen in there too. All these guys are backups for a reason. They're either going to bring a lot of utility as a runner or a lot of utility as a receiver, but not both. So a guy like Blake Corum, awesome, but in the last 4 games, 2 targets. A guy like Tyjae Spears, garbage when you give him the ball, but you have to give him those handoffs so teams don't just default to, he's the pass catching back. And he has been 16 targets his last 4 games, 15 catches. So either way, you are really balancing a lot of pluses and minuses here. I like the Tootin pick, but my stash pick, Yash,
who you got?
Dylan Sampson. I think too explosive to get left on the bench in Cleveland. And yes, you have another dynamic rookie running back in front of him, Quinshon Judkins, but Kevin Stefanski is a smart man. He knows he is building his reputation back up after kind of botching things earlier in the year. He knows Shedeur Sanders needs help. It means getting as many playmakers on the field as possible. Look for a lot of 2 tight end sets and a lot of 2 running back sets that allow Sampson to thrive, even though he's dealing with a calf injury. And too often that is just the precursor for, his Achilles popped like a balloon. That's my stash pick. I think I will agree with you, though. If I'm going with a 1-game wonder in week 14, I'm going to ride Blake Corum's hot hand because he looked like the better back in week 13. Kyron Williams, like you said, getting a ton of carries. Sean McVay's smart. He's going to want to rest his RB1 a little bit for the stretch run, make sure he's good to go for the playoffs. I think we're going to see an uptick in Corum carries, and therefore a few more red zone opportunities, another chance to get an 80-yard 1 touchdown performance like we saw in week 13.